do you see that have their expectations changed? In other words, have they become more comfortable being more online, or like you rightly say that is there also an expectation that they perhaps miss the good old classes where they go into the classroom, see the professor, meet a few friends, and so on?
Well, let me answer that question by saying some of the things that the pandemic made all of us struggle, not just the Gen Z. And I
Yeah.
think one example of that is something like YouTube,
Mm.
where it's very easy. You go on; it's available 24/7. We get used to having it there. It's very entertaining, and the things that aren't entertaining, we just don't see. And and so it makes people think that that's the ideal form of education.
Yeah.
And but I think we have to be really careful about that. And I think through what I'm learning, what I love YouTube as a place to learn things. And the best example that I can give is that I'm started to try to learn how to really swim. I mean, I've always been able to swim, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to learn the techniques of swimming and streamlining through the water and
Yeah.
being able to generate the best force and go as fast as possible. It's just a form of exercise. And so I was on YouTube watching these Olympic swimmers swim. And the coach was talking about the different things they were doing. And so I learned quite a bit. But in that situation, then it's very easy to see where I would then go into the pool and try it out for myself.
Nah,
And the
sure.
things that are most successful on YouTube, the educationally, are things that people can get ahead of time and then use that and then try it out in class. And it's very good. So I hear people learning like musical instruments, how to play a guitar on
Yeah.
YouTube. It's it's very, very good. And I totally see how that can happen. But I think that one of the disadvantages for all of us is that when we're trying to learn other things and we're not doing that other step of being able to bring it and practice it or apply it or do something with it outside of YouTube, that we have to be careful about, because YouTube
Right.
could be a very important part of education, but it's not complete education. And then the other thing that I think all of us, not just Gen Z, having to deal with is the distractions that happen when we're not sitting in the classroom trying to focus in on the professor, but instead we're at home. It's your case, you got two kids, sort of, hey dad, what's going on, or whatever, arguing with you, whatever
Yeah.
mood that
Yeah.
they're in. For our learners, having being able to have a place where they can concentrate can be very challenging. And so one of the things, and then of course the major distraction that we all have, but even more so for the Gen Zs, is the phone that's constantly pinging us for things that we have to do. Okay, so that's something that all of us have to deal with. But I think the things that are more specific, I should say, to Gen Z than in particular, is that they're faced with getting way too much information. Okay,
Mm.
so when we were educated, we were in the classroom, we were given a textbook, the teacher lectured it, and that's with the information that we had.
Yeah.
Some of this is really good, where students are being asked more and more to do the research and get the information, or they're going on themselves and doing different searches and getting information and being able to trying to learn that.
Right.
And I see a large problem with our students is that it's hard for them to know as they're learning what is the right information to learn, what is
Right.
credible, what's really good information. And we got that from the faculty before, but now for the Gen Zs, more and more of this expectation, oh, you're a digital native, so you should be able to find all this information yourself. But not having the skills to be able to sort out all the information that's available out there. And so one of the things that they have to be able to learn is they have to be able to sort through what's credible information, what's misinformation, and also what's disinformation. They're going to have to be able to sort that out, because they have less of the people curating the information for them. The other thing that I noticed for my students, and I'm talking mostly about my students, and I think it applies more general, but my students at NUS, they don't have the opportunity to practice collaboration as much. It's very hard in this setting where and they feel isolated, which will lead me to the third one. But before that, they just there's less opportunity to be able to talk with other students. And I already mentioned how important I felt that was a part of my education. They
Sure.
missed that. So we think that this online experience is about just content, but in fact, it's more than that. It's where you're sitting next to someone and they make this snide remark, and you might talk to them about it and understand, what their question is, or why they hate the material, or why they think it's interesting, or whatever it is. And these kind of side conversations you won't ever get because Zoom and these, it's just you with the instructor.
Yeah.
And these things are really also as important. And we try again to put people in teams. And as you know, that was an important part of what I did bringing education to Singapore, is put students in team. And we try to do that on Zoom, but it's still not the same in terms of relating to each other. It's more around specific information that goes back and forth, is around content, not so much about the relational, and there's no way to really brainstorm, no way to really criticize, very hard to criticize in this kind of, with people that you don't know very well. And then the final thing that I'll mention is that it's the issues of mental health. When you don't have your peers around you, and what you're doing is you're missing peers. And one of the things that people are missing is the support system that they have. And growing up as a young adult and teenager and young adult is hard enough if you have the right support. And then if you socially isolate them, then it's really hard. And it's hard for everyone, right? It's hard for the family. So that's another aspect that I just don't think that we pay enough attention to with the Gen Zs. And part of what I've learned being a pediatrician and educator is that if people aren't healthy, they aren't able to learn well. So in fact, at the course, turns out that a lot of our class is taught around health and wellness issues, attention and focus, not just like motivation and the right way of studying, cramming or not cramming, or doing all these techniques, but also probably the biggest impact on learning for our students at NUS is the idea of sleep. Their sleep schedule is terrible. They're up late at night. We're able to see when our students are on the learning management system, and we could see a lot of them are up late at night, getting only a few hours of sleep each night. And you cannot learn well when you are sleep deprived. But that is for many of our students, that's the normal. They're up late at night, and so with the sleep deprivation, it not only directly affects the learning, but it directly affects the mental health, which then affects the learning. So one of the things that I think the students in my class really get a lot out of is when we talk about different sleep issues and how that affects learning. Because the idea that they have is that the more you study, the better the grades are. And if your grades aren't good, all you have to do is study more. But that's not what happens is you go to a certain point and you start to decrease your ability to learn, right? And so the more you do, it doesn't necessarily mean that the better you do.